Howdy y'all, welcome back to Multar Aviation. So in this aviation weather video, I'm going to be talking about precipitation. So hey, I'm Dr. Andy Multar. I'm a flight instructor, a CFI IIMEI. I used to be a corporate pilot, and now I'm a professor of aviation. And aviation weather is one of those classes I teach, so you're getting a free college education right here on YouTube. In this video, we're going to be talking about precipitation, what it is, the ingredients for precipitation, how precipitation grows through the growth processes, the different precipitation types, which include snow, ice pellets, freezing rain, and rain. And I just want to tell you, everything that we're talking about is in the Aviation Weather Handbook. There's lots of books on aviation weather, but the Aviation Weather Handbook is produced by the FAA, and it really is the best book to get. So I'm going to provide a link for it in this video right here. But so if you don't already have it, I suggest you get it. You can either download it for free from the FAA's website, or you can get it through the link I provide. So precipitation is any of the forms of water particles, whether liquid or solid, that fall from the atmosphere and reach the ground. And so precipitation types include drizzle, rain, snow, snow grains, ice crystals, ice pellets, and hail. Now, for precipitation to form, there has to be three ingredients for it to happen. And so those three ingredients are water vapor in the atmosphere, sufficient lift to condense the water vapor into clouds, and then a growth process that allows the cloud droplets to grow large enough to fall as precipitation. And so usually the clouds have to be at least 4,000 feet thick for the precipitation to form. The thicker the clouds, though, the thicker the precipitation will be. Now, originally, the way it starts out is, the water vapor it's a gas, and it condenses into water droplets in the form of clouds. And so those water droplets are so small, microscopically small, that it would take 48 hours for those water droplets to fall to the surface from 3,300 feet. Now, the droplets will not make it to the surface because of evaporation. As soon as those water droplets fall below the cloud base, they'll evaporate. But there are two growth processes that allow for those water droplets to become precipitation. And those are the collision coalescence process, also called the warm rain process. And then there's also the ice crystal process. So the collision coalescence process is a warm air process, and this occurs when the water droplets of varying size and different fall speeds kind of come together. So you see these little water droplets, they kind of hit other water droplets and keep growing. They stick together or coalesce, come together. And these large water droplets can even break apart to become separate water droplets that then also coalesce with other water droplets. And eventually, those water droplets become so large that they become too heavy to be suspended in the air, and so then they'll fall to the surface as rain. This is thought to be the primary growth process in warm tropical air masses where the freezing level is very high. Then there's the ice crystal process. So this occurs in colder clouds when both the ice crystals and water droplets are present. It's easier for water droplets to deposit directly onto the ice crystals, and so they grow at the expense of the water droplets. And then those crystals eventually become heavy enough to fall, and if it's cold near the surface, it might snow. But if it's warm, then the snowflakes will melt and become rain. And so this is thought to be the primary growth process in the mid-latitudes. And so to figure out what kind of precipitation we're going to get, it just depends on the temperature of the air. So the vertical distribution of the temperature will often determine the type of precipitation that occurs at the surface. And so here we see how snow is formed. You see here, this green line represents the temperature of the atmosphere as we go up in altitude, and as the temperature increases, it's being shown to move to the right. And so for snow to occur, that's going to be the ice crystal process where the ice crystals form and then the water droplets adhere to those ice crystals and they form the snowflakes. And then since it stays below freezing throughout as it descends down to the surface, it just stays as those snow crystals. And then we have ice pellets, or as you might know it as sleet. So sleet occurs when there's a shallow layer aloft with freezing temperatures with a deep layer of below freezing air base at the surface. As snow falls into the shallow warm layer, the snowflakes partially melt, and then precipitation then re-enters the air that is below freezing, and it becomes ice pellets. So, initially snow formed through the ice crystal process and in this cold layer, but then as those snow flakes started descending, then it entered the shallow warm layer where they partially melted, but then they went through another freezing layer and then they froze again. And then we have freezing rain. So freezing rain occurs when there's a deep layer aloft with above freezing temperatures with a smaller layer of below freezing air at the surface. And so the freezing rain can either begin as rain and or snow. But it all becomes rain in the warm layer, and then as it descends through the freezing layer, it becomes super cooled. But because that freezing layer near the surface is so shallow, it just doesn't have time to freeze. So it just becomes super cooled, and then when it makes contact with whatever on the ground, then it freezes on contact. And so here we see it. So it can either form as snow or rain. Snow if it's up in this cold layer aloft, or it could form as rain in this upper portion of the warm layer. And so either that snow or rain falls, and then if it's snow, it melts into rain. It keeps on falling towards the surface, and then there's that little freezing layer near the surface. It becomes super cooled, just doesn't have time to freeze, and then strikes some metal fence post and becomes freezing rain, and it freezes onto that metal fence post on the ground. And then last but not least, we have rain. So this just occurs when we have a deep layer of above freezing air based at the surface. And so, it could be snow that forms, or it could just be, rain that forms. And then because the temperature is above freezing, it's going to be water, and it won't freeze. And then it strikes the ground. It's wet. Well, there you have it. That's precipitation. So, can you answer these questions? What are the three ingredients to create precipitation? What is the minimum thickness of clouds expected for precipitation to occur? And what are those two growth processes called again? How is snow created? How are ice pellets created? What about freezing rain? If you can answer those, then you've done a good job watching this video. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I read every single comment. I respond to every comment. And make sure you subscribe. That way you get notified every time I come out with a new video. All right, thanks for watching.